We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're gonna get kicked out of being number 2, you're gonna go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a 3rd grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're gonna get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Good evening in the central. Good evening on the East Coast. Oh, exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Reparations perspective, bringing you those freezing hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote, socializing our suffering. How y'all doing, family? Thank you one and all for joining the live. Welcome Twitter, welcome Facebook, welcome ScrewTube. So glad to have you guys in the building. This is really part 2. I didn't get through all of my topics on yesterday. I may have to start coming to you guys a little more regularly because I have so much to talk about. It's hard to cram it in 2 hours on a Sunday. I'm going to do my best. It's very challenging to manage work and being here like a full-time job. It takes a lot. But I welcome you one and all for being here for part 2. If you didn't tune in yesterday to part 1, it was rich and epic. Definitely check that out. But I want to pick up where I left off, dealing with Joe Crow. Now, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. What I may also do is share the link with people that I know. I can't just share it with everybody. Some of the agents of chaos come up in here, and I don't really feel like getting into a tug of war about this. It's been quite a bit to see folks who care more about raising money to line their own pockets while they're talking against our reparations. We're going to get into that, I think, about the third segment. I may have time to do 3 segments within this hour and then let you guys weigh in the chat if you choose to. If not, I'll keep going for the next hour. So I want to talk about where I pick up where I left off before we get to the main event. I want to talk about the midterm. Now, this is no surprise to me that there was a low Black voter turnout. I don't know why this is surprising to Newsbreak, but it is. Well, they act surprised. I don't know why. I have been sounding the alarm about the grave, dire importance to weaponize our vote and socialize our suffering. Sadly, it didn't have as much traction as withholding the vote, but prayerfully with each and every broadcast, I can continue to make that case so 24 won't look like 22. So let me share my screen. Okay. I'm still I'm actually going to be paying for the data to find out what actually happened, to see how much traction my midterm voter strategy actually had. Let me see here. I'm going to try to read the full article here. Let me let you guys see this. I'm going to have that title flashed while I read from another tab. Just give me a second to copy and paste in another tab. Stand by. Family, we really cannot afford to do this anymore. We cannot afford to think that we're just a black and white country while they are flooding the zone with illegal immigrants. You got about 14 million or more DACA on deck who are on the Democrats' head to give them citizenship. And we don't have this luxury to just withhold the vote. And if you want to know how it's working, we're on the bottom economically. We're on the bottom in every metric. So it clearly is not working to withhold the vote. So the title reads midterm. Let me make sure y'all can still see that because I did a little. Okay, hold on. I want to make sure you can read it. I jumped to another screen. Okay, yeah, you see that. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Midterm surprise, low Black voter turnout. This is Axios. A record number of Black Democrats ran for Senate in battleground states during the 22 midterm elections, but many of them failed to energize African-American voters. Why it matters. One of the most important stories in American politics is the Democratic Party's increasing reliance on white voters as they lose ground with non-white voters. Me speaking. They're not losing ground with non-white voters. You have to understand, family, that there are groups, these immigrants, the refugees, and the illegals alike, they're making them white by skin tone. So a lot of these Latinas that they're allowing into the country herald from South America. The Mexicans, also fair in skin, they also check the box for white. The refugees from Afghanistan, which they claim is full of neo-Nazis. They're also white in complexion and get to be made white when they come to this country. This is the way they bolster the numbers for the whites. To get everyone signing on the white line, I'm white, and then all other resources that belong to us get rolled up to them. So I'm going to be unpacking this as I read, as I do every article, okay? So they're not losing ground with the non-white voters. As a matter of fact, from what the rumor mill says, the Hispanic vote was split down the middle. Okay, and this, I'm going to read to you about what they're doing to try to capture more of the Hispanic vote, the Latina vote. And that has more to do with about making more of them citizens before they make us whole with reparations. It's a problem. And we've got to identify it as such. And we've got to move as a block with this vote and stop playing around. Because right now, all you're doing when you withhold the vote or continue to vote blue no matter who, is you're voting for your own erasure replacement. Yeah, I'm going to say it until we get it. Because we clearly are not. Back to the text. The evidence so far raises the distinct possibility that the Black share of the electorate sank to its lowest level since 2006. The New York Times' Nate Cohn writes. It certainly did in states like Georgia and North Carolina, where authoritative data is already available. Cohn says that can be seen as a reversion to Black turnout before the Obama era, but warns that it's consistent with a pattern of non-white voters trending a bit more to the Repugnant Klan Party since 2018. That's the information I'm interested in. Because we know that the Hispanics, by and large, have been split, or at least growing in Democratic support as they get more of our reparations and protections. We know the Asians have started turning out in record number. I've shared with you in the archives about 90% of the Asian vote that turned out went to the Democrats. The last election cycle. I don't have the numbers for this one yet. I have to pay for that information here in the state of California. We don't have authoritative data yet on those numbers. So what this means to me, when they continue to refer to us as non-white voters, they're really talking about Asians and Black folks, because the Latino population has always been pretty much conservative in the way they move. Until the last election cycle, you saw even more of them swing in the direction of Joe Crow. Back to the text. By the numbers, Mandela Barnes, Wisconsin's progressive lieutenant governor, was one of the biggest Democratic underperformers in Senate races. He came up 26,718 votes short, a margin that nearly matched the Democratic drop-off in the city of Milwaukee compared with 2018. By contrast, turnout in largely white and progressive Dane County, Madison, increased by about 7,000 votes from 2018 to 22. Barnes was the only Democratic Senate candidate to lose a state that Biden carried in the prior election. Even as Black turnout sagged in Georgia for the November election, African-American voters are showing up in larger numbers for early voting in the Georgia Senate runoff, which we all know that Warnock, a minister who supports abortion and LGBTQ, he prevailed. So here we are, continuing to show up to be the savior for a party who gives us their ass to kiss. Speaking of which, let's stop sharing that and talk about whatsoever do I mean. Hi, Tahiri Hansen. Ask white people, ask them about reparations. All of them. Don't let them off the hook. Cut the check directly to foundational Black Americans now. Absolutely, Tahiri, this is what we have to do, because the agents of chaos are very, very busy with bigger platforms, bigger mics. They're not in this fight, but they're constantly talking against this fight. It's a lot. So we do have to stay on the heads. We do have to keep this relevant. It's why you see me going on and why I will probably have to come on daily, because of so much pushback from Black folks, skin folk that absolutely are not kin folk, and some of them are. You've got some freedmen speaking against it as well. Okay, so let's get into this next one. I want to show y'all how Biden reduced funding to the HBCUs. Let's watch this. Share my screen. Let's see here. Hold on. I just want to show you, but y'all just keep showing up voting for. It's to our own peril, because you talk about how the Repugnant clans ain't done nothing for you. Well, I'm here to show you neither have the Democrats. Stand by, let me share. I have a lot of articles open, family. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. If you feel so compelled, bless the broadcast. Thank you. Oh Lord, where is it? Okay, I'm going to keep that on the screen, and I'm going to read it from another tab. Stand by. HBCU funding falls from $45 billion to $2 billion under latest Biden spending plan. Now, I've shared with you in the archives how he had us fighting over this money with Hispanics. I share with you how they have, oh my God, they've got 5 times the number of institutions that we do. We've got 100 historically Black colleges and universities to their 500. Let's talk about it. Historically Black colleges and universities that were looking forward to $45 billion in funding may be faced with just $2 billion under the Joe Crow administration's multi-trillion-dollar spending plan, a result of Democratic infighting, the Associated Press reported. The $3.5 trillion bill was set to include $45 billion for HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions, but the newest iteration of the bill allots only $2 billion for educational programs and infrastructure of HBCUs. That amount could even be reduced to competitive grant funding instead of direct funding to the schools. Harry L. Williams, now let me remind you of how much Trump gave to the HBCUs. Okay. I'm trying to find the actual amount. Trump provided more than $500 million in loans to HBCUs through the Capital Financing Program. President Trump worked with HBCUs to protect $80 million in Title III carryover funding. He signed the Future Act into law, which permanently funds HBCUs and simplified the FAFSA application. In 2018, Trump signed a budget deal which forgave more than $300 million in debt owed by 4 HBCUs impacted by natural disasters and provided $10 million in loan payment deferments for schools that face financial difficulties, including HBCUs. President Trump worked with Congress to lift the ban on Pell Grants on the summer classes. Hold one second, let me find what he was intending to do for them annually. Okay, Trump signed a bill restoring funding for Black colleges. President Donald Trump on Thursday signed a bipartisan bill that will permanently provide more than $250 million a year to the nation's historically Black colleges and universities, along with dozens of other institutions that serve large shares of minority students. In signing the bill, Trump said historically Black schools have never had better champions in the White House. When I took office, I promised to fight for HBCUs, and my administration continues to deliver, Trump said. A few months ago, funding for HBCUs was in jeopardy, but the White House and Congress came together. Hold on, family. Pop-ups. Came together and reached a historic agreement. Now, this was exclusively for us. What Biden has reduced to $2 billion for us to get into a fight with Hispanics over. That amount could even be reduced to competitive grant funding, competing with Hispanics, instead of direct funding to those schools. So now we have to compete with the very immigrants whom this government, the Democrats in particular, continue to flood the country with before they pay our reparations in the quadrillions over several lifetimes. Harry L. Williams, president of Thurgood Marshall College Fund, which represents public HBCUs, stressed the importance of the funding and the needs the original funding could have helped to fulfill. He said Black colleges have unique history, needs, and financial challenges. They often struggle with funding for upgrading the campuses, updating their research programs, providing essential materials, hiring teachers, and attracting new potential students. AP reported that the bill was changed because of Democratic bickering over the size of the funding package and where the funding would go. Getting a slice of that would have been a boon to Philander Smith College in Little Rock, Arkansas, a private historically Black college. President Roderick L. Smothers said federal coronavirus relief money was instrumental in helping the university survive the pandemic with technology upgrades and student support. But he said Biden's original proposal provided the kind of money that would have had a long-term impact. Quote, we use the funds that we received to serve the students that we have, and now we're asking for additional funds to make sure that when we are on the other side of this global pandemic, our institutions will be bigger and better and more resilient, Smothers said. The college increased its enrollment by 43% between 2010 and 2019, the latest data available, but saw its endowment drop 18% during the same time frame, according to federal data analyzed by AP. Overall, enrollment at the nation's roughly 102 Black colleges has been declining from 326,827 in 2010 to 289,507 in 2019. My God. Beyond building upgrade, and me speaking, and the cost to go to these HBCUs because we're not getting the funding, and if we do, it's not timely, and if we do, we got to share it with immigrants whom we keep voting to flood the country to erase and replace us. It's too expensive. That's why there's been a decline. They're not giving out scholarships. They don't have the funding. And they're always behind. And then you compound that with some of the institutions that steal the money. That's going on too. But we keep holding to this voting pattern because Trump is mean. Trump is a racist. Like Joe Crow isn't. And instead of weaponizing the vote, we withhold it or continue to vote blue, like that just delivered Warnock, who's about that immigration life. Democratic Representative Bobby Scott of Virginia, who leads the U.S. House Education Committee, said historically Black colleges have received unprecedented levels of federal funding over the past 2 years, more than they have in the past decade combined. That includes $1.6 billion under the Democrats' American Rescue Plan passed earlier this year. The money has allowed them to pursue initiatives such as canceling student debt during the COVID-19 pandemic. Scott, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, said the draft bill also includes $27 billion for student aid at Black colleges and other institutions serving racial minorities. Still, he acknowledged the need for more funding. We like to do as much as we can, Scott said. I'm not satisfied with anything in the budget that's within our jurisdiction. Scott said the Department of Education had committed to ensuring the grant program contained in the current bill would be structured so similar colleges would be competing with each other. It's a way to prevent larger ones with robust grant writing departments from edging out smaller schools. That's important to address vast differences between the colleges. The AP analysis of enrollment and endowment data found wide disparities among the 102 historically Black colleges and universities, and a further divide between private and public institutions. Federal data, for example, showed that 11 HBCUs had endowments worth less than $1,000 per pupil in the 2018-19 school year, while 9 had endowments worth more than $50,000 per pupil. In general, Black colleges have lacked the fundraising ability of other universities. The cumulative endowment for all historical Black colleges through 2019 was a little more than $3.9 billion, about the same as the endowment for the University of Minnesota. The cumulative endowment for all 100 historically Black colleges through 2019 was slightly more than $3.9 billion, which is the same amount as the endowment for one University of Minnesota. Advocates said the funding struggles and the role the colleges have played historically is why long-term federal assistance is needed. This has been going on forever, since the history of HBCUs, where they're giving more funding to the white institutions than they are the HBCUs. Isn't this the case across every metric? Okay, I want to share more ways in which your vote is helping to undermine and erase and replace you. Stand by. The Asian American Federation will receive a total of $6.8 million in funding to be directed to 59 community organizations. The Coalition for Asian American Children and Families will receive over $1 million, partnering with a host of organizations to enhance youth and young adult services targeting Asian American communities. The Chinese American Planning Council, CPC, will receive almost $700,000 to help empower who? Asian American, immigrant, and low-income communities in New York City. Governor Kathy Hochul today announced $10 million in awards for organizations providing services to Asian American communities that were disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm going to keep going. While our money gets returned, it never sees our communities. Stand by. I got to pull up another article. I can't see you right now. I'm over here maneuvering. Oh my God. Will they please just... Okay. This article... Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. They keep wanting subscriptions to all these papers when I'm trying to read these articles. Hold on, family. Because I guess I've reached the maximum of the free articles. And I don't feel like paying for even more subscriptions. It's absolutely ridiculous. I know everybody has to make money, but seriously, people. So I'm going to try to read this one. Biden administration spending $60 million per week to shelter unaccompanied minors. The Biden administration appears to be spending at least $60 million per week to care for more than 16,000 migrant teenagers and children in shelters operated by the Department of Health and Human Services, and those costs are expected to rise significantly over the coming months, according to an analysis of government data obtained by the Washington Post. With a record number of unaccompanied minors arriving at the border in the past several weeks, HHS quickly filled the 7,700 available beds in its network of permanent shelters, where the cost of caring for a child is about $290 daily, and capacity has been reduced by COVID protocols. The administration has raced to set up at least 10 large emergency facilities, creating 16,000 temporary beds for migrant children in convention centers, converted oil worker camps, and on military bases. About 8,500 children are living at these pop-up sites, and 4,000 more are waiting to be transferred for cramped border facilities. The cost of these emergency sites is more than 2.5 times higher than the more permanent shelters due to the need to develop facilities quickly and hire significant staff over a short period of time, said Kenneth Wolf, a spokesman for HHS's Administration for Children and Families. He said the average daily cost per child is approximately $775 per day based on past experience. I'm just touching on stuff so you can just hear what you're voting for when you don't show up to these polls. NBC News, bipartisan duo makes last-minute push for immigration deal. Senators Kristen Sinema and Tom Tillis have been sharing a draft framework with colleagues that would couple protections for dreamers with new border security funds. So you take our funding down for our HBCUs from $45 billion to $2 billion, so you can increase funding at the borders and make these DACA, which are illegal immigrants, you want to make them dreamers, and now you want to give them the dream of citizenship before making us whole with reparations and protections. Let me share the screen. and read from another tab. A bipartisan Senate duo has launched a last-minute push to enact immigration reform before the end of the year. Senators Kirsten Sinema, Democrat out of Arizona, and Tom Tillis, Republican, North Carolina, have been sharing with colleagues what they are calling a draft framework that includes $25 billion with a B to beef up border security to exchange for a pathway to citizenship for roughly 2 million dreamers, young undocumented immigrants who were brought to the U.S. by their parents, according to a Senate aide familiar with the effort. The framework, which sources said is in flux, also calls for extending Title 42 for at least a year into the creation of regional processing centers along the border, which would be staffed with increased resources and personnel to accommodate arriving asylum seekers. That's a fanciful word for illegal immigrants. Title 42 is a Trump-era COVID policy that allowed authorities to restrict asylum seekers from crossing the border into the U.S., which, oh, by the way, is why our unemployment numbers here in the state of California were 5%. What is now over, 12%? It's out of control, approaching maybe 20% by now. As California goes, so goes the nation. But they got our people hating on Republicans like Trump. You can trust and believe the money towards the HBCUs is intangible. Closing the borders is intangible. And the framework, first reported by Washington Post, would expedite the asylum process by making investments in asylum officers, litigation teams, and immigration judges and courts, the Senate aide said. Our tax dollars. For those of us who are still fortunate to have work, and especially for those who continue to make an American wage. It also includes additional investments in removal operations for immigrants who've absconded or received final removal orders. So they're getting protections. Under the proposal, the boost in border security would include higher salaries for Border Patrol agents. Why? They're the ones that are opening the gates. So you're going to pay them more to keep the gates open for illegals to just keep coming into the country for our tax dollars to take care of. They're the ones with housing. They've gotten away with, they don't even need to be citizens anymore to get government jobs. They're getting health care. They're getting protections from deportation, driver's licenses. Just got here with the help of these Border Patrol that they now want to increase the salaries of and increase staffing and other resources for Border Patrol and border protections. Passing any immigration bill in the post-election lame duck session would be a heavy lift for Congress, given that it has a lengthy laundry list to tackle in the coming weeks, and lawmakers haven't made significant progress on the politically tricky issue in decades. But Sinema and Tillis, both moderates, have had a track record of legislative wins. They teamed up this summer to help pass a major gun reform bill after the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and were part of a bipartisan group that struck a deal on a religious freedom amendment that cleared the way for the Senate to pass legislation protecting same-sex marriage. They've clearly found a successful equation here, the Senate aide said. If they can strike a deal, pro-immigration reform members are hoping to attach their proposal to a bill to help the government fund it, to keep the government funded, that must pass later this month. Let me reread that. If they can strike a deal, pro-immigration reform members are hoping to attach their proposal to a bill to keep the government funded that must pass later this month. So they're trying to get everything done in the lame duck session before the Republicans that just won a majority in the House, before they're seated. And with the number of Democrats colluding in the plans for our ethno-genocide, that could very well happen. As author of the DREAM Act, I applaud every good faith effort to give these deserving individuals a path to citizenship. Blah, blah, blah. I cannot. Let me share something else. Give me a second, fam. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. We've got to get the messaging out to the people, family. They've got to understand that they are literally voting against their own interest. They're voting for their erasure and replacement. Hold on, family. I'm trying to get to my next article. Now, this is another way. So, let me share this. Hi, Lisa. Okay, Shadow. Nice to see you. Welcome to the live. Let me stop sharing and share this one. This is what you're voting for. House passes measure condemning anti-Semitism. One lawmaker votes no. Only one Republican clan. This is after that Glacier Donkey race soldier goes to Uvalde in New York, executes 10 of our people in the grocery store. Let's go. The Jews get protection because it was in the manifesto. The House passed a resolution on Wednesday condemning the rise of anti-Semitism in a nearly unanimous vote, with one Republican lawmaker objecting to the measure. The resolution passed 420 to 1. Do you see why I'm not hopeful that this will fail during the lame duck session to make 2 million DACAs, 2 million illegal immigrants, legal citizens, while giving more money for a border that lacks protection? The resolution passed 420 to 1 with Representative Thomas Massey, Republican clan out of Kentucky, representing the only vote against it. 8 other Republicans did not vote. When you don't vote, that's a vote, right? That's what they were telling us when we foolishly voted dim down ballot. That a vote for a third party or withholding the vote was a vote for the opposing side. They should have voted so we could know who they are. Reached Thursday for comment on his vote, Massey's office referred the Hill to a tweet in which he said the resolution promoted internet censorship and violations of the First Amendment. It absolutely does. You see what they're doing to Kyrie? You see what they're doing to Ye? Let me help you understand the difference between hate incidents and hate crimes. Because they're making much ado about nothing, all the while eroding our First Amendment rights to free speech. Let me find it. A hate crime is a crime against a person, group, or property motivated by the victim's real or perceived protected social group. You may be the victim of a hate crime if you have been targeted because of your actual or perceived disability, gender, nationality, race or ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, and association with a person or group with one or more of these actual or perceived characteristics. Hate crimes are serious crimes that may result in imprisonment or jail time, as juxtaposed against a hate incident, which is an action or behavior motivated by hate, but which for one or more reasons is not a crime. Examples of hate incidents include name calling, insults, displaying hate material on your own property, posting hate material that does not result in property damage, distribution of materials with hate messages in public places. The U.S. Constitution allows hate speech as long as it does not interfere with the civil rights of others. While these acts are certainly hurtful, they do not rise to the level of criminal violations and thus may not be prosecuted. However, it is important to note that these incidents have a traumatic impact on the victims as well as on the community at large. So not only are we the ones disproportionately overwhelmed with hate incidents, even greater still, we are overwhelmed in the largest majorities of hate crimes. How so? How do you know that? Reparationist perspective. I'm glad you asked. Let me share. So this is what the Democrats constantly do. Let me read this to you. Number of victims of race-based hate crime, not incidents, in the United States in 2020 by race. 3,915 African American or Black. Do you see that? Anti-white, 1,082. Anti-Hispanic or Latina, 693. Anti-other race, ethnicity, ancestry, 354. Anti-Asian, 342. Anti-multiple races groups, 281. Anti-American Indian or Alaskan Native, 108. Anti-Arab, 87. Anti-Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islanders, 18. I don't even see Jews listed here. I'm going to keep that up. Make myself a little bigger while I keep going. The resolution calls on elected officials, faith leaders, and leaders in civil society to use their positions of authority to condemn and combat any and all manifestations of anti-Semitism. While we get no protections, they're not even on the graph. But 420 to 1 voted for this bullshiggity. 8 did not vote at all. The measure also urges individuals to denounce denials or distortions of the Holocaust and encourages them to promote education focused on the Holocaust and anti-Semitism. Now, they call anti-Semitism when we declare, which is historically true, to be Hebrew Israelites. That's anti-Semitic, and that's why they're coming out with ways to silence us and to censor us and to charge us when we speak truth to power. That's what you're voting for when you continue to vote blue no matter who. Tragically, anti-Semitism followed Jewish Americans from the old world to the new one, and it's become a growing cancer on our body politic. Majority Leader Steny Hoyer said from the House floor on Wednesday, the Democrat, too many Americans need to hear the loud voices of their Congress calling out anti-Semitism, not anti-Freedmen racist hate and sentiment, not anti-Freedmen racist hate crimes. You want to call out anti-Semitism, which don't even graph. They're not even on the graph. The Jews are not there. Because too many of our fellow citizens are hearing leaders they support and trust either give voice to anti-Semitism or rationalize anti-Semitism, he added. Ain't this about a blip? Listen to this. The resolution comes after the Anti-Defamation League reported last month that anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. hit a record high in 21. Did you hear me? Anti-Semitic incidents. So if you simply told them, I don't like you, that's anti-Semitic. That's an incident. I just read to you the definition. In its annual audit, the group said it counted 2,717 anti-Semitic incidents, not crimes. But they get protections. Your votes in the U.S. last year, including harassment and vandalism. That number marked the highest the organization has recorded since it started tracking anti-Semitic incidents in 1979, the resolution cited the ADL's report. Listen, the measure comes during Jewish American Heritage Month. It was also passed days after a gunman opened fire at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. That was Tops grocery store, killing 10 individuals. 13 people in total were shot, 11 of whom were who? American freedmen, or at least black. Let me keep going. Governor Hochul announced the opening of applications for $50 million to strengthen safety and security measures at nonprofit community-based organizations at risk or hate crimes or attacks because of their ideology, beliefs, or mission. $50 million. Federal funding totaling $46 million was awarded to 240 nonprofits through the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Nonprofit Security Grant Program. Nonprofit organizations may now apply for $50 million through the State Securing Communities Against Hate Crimes program, the most funding ever made available. You see on the graph who is disproportionately impacted by hate crimes. The rest are predominantly hate incidents, at least half. And they're fewer in number. I'm moving on. Closing some of these screens. Commercial, if you're here in California and if you have not received your California gas rebate, this thing is, like about, I want to say 400, I want to say 350 if you're an individual, plus 350 additional for each dependent. So that's been happening since around October. Those checks have been going out. If you haven't received yours, please contact the State Department. I'll see if I still have that information open to paste the link in the chat. But get your Skrilla, because everybody else is getting theirs. Hold on, family. Don't forget another commercial to please join me on Wednesday all day, 9 to 5, like a full-time job. I'll be streaming the California Reparations Task Force hearings live for you. Hold on, family. I'm so sorry for the delay. I was trying to find another article. Okay, I don't see that last article. Oh, I did want to share about this Kevin De Leon fight before I get into this main event. Hold on one second. Let me share this. Now, the next thing I'm going to share with you is about Kevin De Leon. This is one of the Hispanics that was in that brouhaha with Nuri Martinez, who has stepped down. This is the LA County Council. And this Mickey Thicky refuses to go. So he got into a brouhaha. Let's talk about it. I'm going to share the fight. Now, the bigger story here is not the fact that they insulted the young baby boy of a white gay couple. It was a young black boy around 2 years old of a gay white couple that Nuri Martinez was name calling and threatened within an inch of his life for jumping up and down on some float. And Kevin De Leon and several other Hispanics were also at that meeting, weighing in and chuckling and doing all manner of things. Only 2 of 4 have stepped down. The other one is headed on his way out anyway, but this is the one that they want to resign and he refuses to. So they've been camping out at his house, going down and being disruptive to the meetings in the whole 9 yards. Okay. So let me share what happened recently when he was confronted by constituents, a black man in particular. Stand by.
Is live in our newsroom today with the latest from both sides. Leanne.
The LAPD is now investigating the fight between LA City Councilman Kevin De Leon and a community activist, both men claiming the other started the altercation, much of which was captured on camera. Today, we're getting a look at more of that fight. The 2 men coming to blows in front of dozens of children and parents at a toy giveaway and Christmas tree lighting in Lincoln Heights last night. De Leon has been under intense pressure to resign since audio was leaked of an October conversation about redistricting that included racial slurs and blunt talk of political power grabs. Now, at the beginning of that extended video that we're seeing, you can see the altercation there. You can see activist Jason Reedy confronting De Leon. The councilman says several community members were trying to escort him out of the event after a group of activists had surrounded him. When they reached the doorway, the 2 men ended up in a physical altercation. De Leon says Reedy was the one who instigated the violence.
When he headbutted me is when I grabbed him and I put him on the table and I held him on the table there for maybe 5 to 10 seconds. Then at that moment I let him go. Another melee ensued. He turned the corner. He threw a punch at me, full blown punch, hit me right in the face. Threw a second punch at me, missed me.
Reedy's attorney says the video shows a much different story than what De Leon claims. Shakira Rahman says it was the councilman who turned things violent, calling him a disgrace, saying in a statement, quote, video footage clearly shows him and his supporters initiating this assault while Mr. Reedy stands with his hands up. Not only has Kevin De Leon lost all political legitimacy, his claims that he was the one who attacked here simply underscores how he's lost touch with reality. Both men now filing assault allegations against the other. That video, certainly, of the altercation is going to be a key part of the LAPD's investigation into exactly what happened.
So, in effect, as I mentioned, the bigger story here, family, is that it's far bigger than these insults against the little black boy. The verbal assault was bad, true. But what's even worse is the way they've redistricted LA to keep black folks off that council. That's the bigger story. And that's why they're down there trying to get him off this board. See, once you've been voted onto a council like this, you either have to be like unelectable the next time you run for office, or you have to sign a petition. The courts have said that we can actually sign a petition to get him removed. But that's the way you have to get him unseated. He either has to resign or you have to sign a petition, get so many signatures. I think they said 100,000 to 125,000 signatures in order to have him removed. But so far, that hasn't happened. This is the type of hostility we have to deal with. Now, for me, this gentleman, Mr. Reedy, he instigated. He instigated. He was all in this man's face. I just don't really agree with what you guys can weigh in, what you think you saw. But from what I see, this man is, yeah, your hands might be up, but he's close enough to give this man a kiss. He's trying to push out of the venue, which he's free to do. And Mr. Reedy was all on him. Now you ask yourself, if you would not exchange blows with somebody who was invading your personal space that way. So that's where we disagree. But I'm saying bigger than that is the fact that our vote for these Democrats is continuing to put white Hispanics in office, giving them political power, while they come up with ways to redistrict and leave us out of the political process, leave us out of our ability to fight for resources for our people. That's what's happening. Next, I want to talk about, hold on. I want to talk about the mayor who's talking about being in support of reparations. I'll read and weigh in as per usual. Let me share this. Oh my God, I'm so sick of this. I may have to read it from my thing. Another one wants me to log in, pay. That's all they want you to do. I just want the facts. Hold on, family. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Welcome to the live. Okay. I'm trying to find one that's not going to continuously try to charge me. Oh, not that. Hold on. This is crazy. Okay, let's see if this one will let me. Mayor Eric Adams is backing a renewed push for Black New Yorkers to get reparations for slavery. Now, you must know that Eric Adams is, in fact, an immigrant himself. So when you say Black New Yorkers and you don't offer up a distinction, then that means you want all Blacks to get reparations. Hold on, guys.
Mayor Adams is backing a renewed push for Black New Yorkers to get reparations for slavery.
The reparations effort recently gained traction out in California. A task force is recommending payments of more than $200,000 to Black residents.
The harm to slavery and Jim Crow still exists today.
New York Assemblymember Mikhail
To get Mayor Adams is backing a renewed push for Black New Yorkers to get reparations for slavery.
The reparations effort recently gained traction out in California. A task force is recommending payments of more than $200,000 to Black residents.
The harm to chattel slavery and Jim Crow still exists today.
New York Assemblymember Mikhail Solage is filing a bill to study reparations here.
There's so many different facets of reparations, and so we need to make sure that we organize a community commission of experts, of people who understand the issue of reparations.
She has some high-profile support from Mayor Adams.
I commend those lawmakers in Albany that are looking at this. because I believe it's long overdue. It's something that I supported for many years.
A similar bill stalled in the Senate last session. Solage says she has made changes. Steve Burns, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
Is there some?
Okay, family. So in effect, hold on, let me stop this. So in effect, what you have is an immigrant mayor who is claiming to be in support of reparations. I do believe Albany is the state capital for New York. But the challenge we have and the fight we're having all over the country is how if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. So that's the fight we're having out here in California right now. We've got lineage-based reparations, as I shared with you yesterday. You're going to have a high Black by Nature 777. I see you, fam. Welcome to the live. What you've got out here is lineage-based reparations, but do you know, and this is on yesterday's broadcast, so you can go check that out. But basically, what we're going to have is a whole bunch of $5 Crayola freedmen, because everybody's going to now claim to be Black because there's so much money at stake. Now, we don't know if we're going to receive money. We're still in the proposals process. We're still in the exploratory process. And I hear lots of people in the new Black media sit up here talking foolishly about why do we need a study? We need a study because we need to assess the amount of money per incident. As I mentioned to you guys yesterday, there's 5 areas where we are owed repair. Each of them has a value associated with it. So that $200,000 that they're talking about is just for one of 5 areas that we have been impacted, according to the economist here on our task force, the ones that have been hired to put these numbers together. So when you're talking about $200,000, you're only talking about one of 5 areas. I don't know what the grand total is going to be when all 5 are added up. And these are proposals. So I believe in task force. The Jews did not get their billions of dollars of reparations without a fight. They had to put the studies together and talk about what the Holocaust did. Okay? The Japanese had to go through the same thing. There's nothing different here. We have to go through the same thing. So if you don't put a secure enough gate up, you're going to have $5 Crayola freedmen, everybody signing up, talking about how their line traces back to slavery. When in fact, if you're dealing with whites and immigrants, they are made more American than us. I just showed you the hate crime numbers. And there's all the metrics across the board. You can see where they're advantaged for whiteness. They get to be white. That's their reparations. And they share in hundreds of trillions of dollars, what we only share in about 3 trillion. And of that 3 trillion, only about 10 to 14% share in 2.93 trillion. The 86 to 90% of us share in less than 700 billion since COVID. So folks running around here talking about we got all this money and we're just wasting it, that's a lie. Just because we know how to make a dollar hotter and we look the part doesn't mean that we've got a gang of money, that we've got wealth. We don't. We have the highest rates of unemployment, underemployment, and homelessness is what we've got. So you have to stop listening to people tell you this bullshiggity. It is a lie. We don't have that kind of money. A small percentage of us share in that. But whites and immigrants, by and large, share in hundreds of trillions. So it can't just be about lineage. It has to be what have you identified as on the census for the past couple. Because when you benefit from whiteness, you benefit from white incomes, white neighborhoods, white housing, in safe communities with good drinking water. Come on. You're not suffering the same things that we've suffered. Yeah, we're bottom caste, Black by nature. Many of our people are suffering and dying silently. Yes, they are. So a lot of people are going to play. I'm sharing this with you to say they will play like they're for the reparations, but they're really for reparations for all blacks. If you do it based on race, it's going to be challenged at the Supreme Court, and we're still going to lose. It'll be shot down. That's why we have to put up a secure enough gate that you can't now, because you got a one drop of blood in your bloodline, because we know the white folks raped us and did all manner of things. So it's clear that that might be in their line. But if you identify as white and you benefit from a white existence in this country, you're not entitled to our reparations, especially if it's a byproduct of rape. How do we figure that out? But that's yesterday's broadcast. I'm not going to belabor the point. I just want to let you know that when folks sit up here and talk about being for reparations, know that they're either for a narc and cobra pan-Africanist kind of fix or none at all, because nobody wants to trade places. And then again, it's another grift for your vote to get you sheep walking to the polls. Do you know how many more people and more votes Eric Adams, who is for the race soldiers, who is for immigration? Do you know how many more sheeple will go to the polls to vote for him because he's for reparations for all blacks? Hi, Dominique Henderson. Nice to see you, family. But yes, this is what you need to read between the lines and not get duped. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You understand what I'm telling you? Lots of folks are grifting off of reparations. They'll espouse it. But if we are repaired to the degree that we deserve repair, somebody has to trade places, because capitalism requires a bottom caste. Right now, we're it. So if you make us each $1 million apiece, somebody's going on the bottom. And that's what these people like Eric Adams are in the fight for, to make sure that does not happen. The Democrats, by and large, are working against our own interest. Let me get to the main event so I can pray us out and get y'all out of here. 7, 8. Oh, I'm doing pretty good on time. I'll be back to read your comments, family. This is my last one. I did pretty good. I got a lot more in today. I stayed on topic. Let me share this. Now, I'm sharing this because, did I share it? Yep. I'm sharing this because I am really, really, really over Black folks with bigger platforms, by and large, the immigrant class, because I hear Umar Johnson, who's been grifting off the Black community forever to build a school that ain't coming. Okay. I hear that he is not from the line of Frederick Douglass, the way he keeps declaring. It's not true. Let me read you what one of my people shared with me over in Twitter, or was it Racebook? I think it was Racebook. Let me see if I can find that comment real quick, and then we'll get into what he said, and then I'll weigh in and tell you what I feel about it. Hold on one second. Okay, just a second, family. Lord have mercy. I don't see it readily here. Hold on, let me see. Okay, here we go. Now, for the longest, he's been saying that he descends from Frederick Douglass and from Marcus Garvey. Now, we know Marcus Garvey was an immigrant, but I thought, his blood runs through the Frederick Douglass line. The descendant of U.S. chattel slavery part runs through the Douglass line. And then one of my members shared with me this. Hold on one second. They've been busy on this thread. Here we go. Let me put my glasses on. Johnson has, now this is Umar Johnson. That's not even his name. Johnson has repeatedly claimed to have a familial connection with Frederick Douglass, often claiming to be a direct descendant of the 19th century abolitionist and civil rights leader. The Douglass family released a statement saying that we can tell you with 100% certainty that he, Johnson, is not a descendant of Frederick Douglass. So this man is a flat out liar. He's not one of us. And so this is what you find often. His name, I think, is Jermaine Shoemake. I don't know. I know him as Umar Johnson. So I see a name floating over here in the thread. Jermaine Shoemake is a black supremacist. He is basically a cult-leading preacher, and he wants to start FDMG so that he could create an army of young black Pan-African militants. So let's hear what he has to say about it. I'll play it once, and then I'll replay it. Hi, Sandra Delry 360. I see you, fam. Welcome to the live, my love. Okay, so let me play this. And then I'll weigh in. Lord, what happened?
Don't you think that if we got reparations, that would have helped?
Let me ask you a question. The question on the table. If we get reparations, will that help us? If somebody is mentally ill in a mental asylum, mental hospital, you give him $1 million.
Gone.
Does it reverse the illness?
No, it don't.
Does it do anything to treat his problem?
No.
So let's take that to a community. If a community has no institutions, no way to trap the money in their community, they own none of the institutions, and you drop a couple $1 trillion in that community.
It's over.
How is that money going to benefit the people when all the institutions in the community that are going to take their money are not owned by people who look like them?
Let me pause it. This is a kind of Crayola wanton supremacist. This is the kind of crap they constantly do to try to dismiss our reparations, our justice claim, what we are owed. People like Umar are treating this like it's a handout, treating it like it's welfare. This is a debt that is owed for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. But do you see that false comparison to mental illness? As if all of us are mentally ill and all of us are going to go out here and frivolously spend our reparations dollars. This is what I'm talking about with respect to how these people are getting in the way because they see that they're going to be on the bottom once we're made whole. And this is why my broadcast is here, to keep the gas, to keep the pedal to the metal on reparations so that I can be louder. We collectively can be louder through my platform than this nonsense right here. Let me go back. Furthermore, let me say this. I am sick of the Crayola wanton supremacist talking about how we spend our reparations. Did they do this with the Jews? While our tax dollars are paying billions into Israel for their armies and for a Holocaust that didn't even happen on our shores. Did they say this about the Japanese when they got reparations? But each and every time it comes to reparations for American freedmen, they've got something to say about mental illness and the way it'll be ill spent and the way we'll give it back. It ain't none of your damn business what folks do with their reparations. If they want to take a match and burn it up, it's their prerogative. It's not your reparations, it's their reparations.
I'm going to ask it another way. if we don't responsibly spend the money we already have.
How can we spend more?
What makes you think giving you more is going to change your situation? Now, let me say this. I want to be clear. I support.
Me speaking. Another stupid ass point. Although we're the highest percentage to be underemployed, we're the biggest savers as compared to white folks. So you're sitting up here acting as if we're not financially literate enough to save. And once again, I reiterate, it's none of your damn business if I choose to take $1 million and light a match to it. That has nothing to do with you and nothing to do with what we are owed as a debt. Period.
Reparations.
Okay.
I support it. The reparations
How can you support reparations?
movement was born from the Pan-Africanist movement. I support reparations.
Let's talk about that. He's talking about the reparations movement was born from Pan-Africanists. No, it wasn't. Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. birthed, from what I understand, and there were leaders prior to him that spoke on it. I think Frederick Douglass spoke on it, but Martin Luther King is the first one to get murdered over it. The Pan-Africanists co-opted it. H.R. 40 got in the hands of Sheila Jackson Lee, who is an immigrant. And so the only people that she'll let at the federal table concerning reparations is Narcan and Cobra, Pan-Africanist groups. Okay? Those are the only ones she's allowing at the table. We can't even have a seat at our own reparations table. And we've been fighting and trying. That H.R. 40, the reason why it won't pass is the ancestors won't let that pass. It's for all blacks, and they're talking about no cash. How is that reparations? It's not. You can't just apologize. You can't just be paid $20 million, Sheila Jackson Lee, and whomever's going to sit on that panel. You can't just be paid $20 million to come back with studies and do nothing to make us whole. That's not how any of this is going to work. And that's why H.R. 40 won't pass.
What I don't support is thirsty, opportunistic Negroes
like you
who are pushing for reparations externally before we have delivered reparations internally to ourselves. In other words, most of the saving that has to be done for black people must be done by black people, and no amount of money going to fix that.
Right.
No amount of money is going to stop the black woman from not trusting the black man.
Right.
No amount of money is going to make the black man love his woman. No amount of money is going to stop black women from frying their hair. No amount of money is going to stop black men from dating outside the race.
Right.
When you look at our deepest rooted problems, no money can fix them.
You got to start at the root, right?
You got to start at the root. And then once you replant your tree, now you get that reparations to decorate your branches.
Yeah,
man. But
you want to decorate your branches before you re-solidified your roots.
Man.
It's not going to work, bro.
But Dr. Umar, we 400 years behind. Imagine all that time.
The money ain't going to help you catch up. And guess what? You have enough right now. $2 trillion is more than enough right now to put yourself where you need to be. The reparations.
Okay, family, did you see?
So you heard this niggard Negro, right? You heard him make, hi Q Lane, welcome to the live, my love. You heard him sit up here and make it about everything but the fact that this is a debt that is owed. This is why I'm saying this Mickey Ficky is a fat liar. He wants to sit up here and fix social ills that is caused by institutional systemic racism before we should be entitled to reparations. He's talking about $2 trillion that we good. How are we good with $2 trillion? And where is this $2 trillion? Did y'all get direct deposits that I'm not aware of? I don't recall nobody, no government giving us as American freedmen no $2 trillion. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might have missed the memo. Okay? But this is utterly ridiculous. And this is the kind of nonsense that we've got to fight in these task force hearings. We need y'all there. We need you on the mic. If you want to bless the mic at the reparations hearings coming up in Oakland on Wednesday and Thursday, I start here at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hit me up in the Gmail at the therepperspect at Gmail if you want to bless the mic, because there's going to be a lot of Umars at that meeting up in Oakland. Now that we've got lineage-based reparations, they are coming for us in the same ingenuous, nefarious spirit in which Umar is moving. And we've got to be the ones to shut this down. And the way we shut it down is to show up in record numbers. So please be here. This is utterly ridiculous that he's making this about our dysfunction. So we're not entitled to a check until we heal. What? Until we sit in the lotus position and chant a few Nam-Myoho Renge Kyos. Then, once 60 million of us get all right spiritually, then we can talk about reparations. By then, we will have been erased and replaced. We've got to keep the pedal to the metal, family. Let me see what you got to say about it before I pray us out. Ask white. Oh, I did this one earlier. Tahiri Hansen said, ask white people. Ask them about reparations, all of them. Don't let them off the hook. Cut the check directly to the foundational Black Americans now. May the ancestors keep you well and your voice echoing in the descendants' ears. Thank you, Black by Nature 777. Yep, we are bottom caste. Many of our people are suffering and dying silently. Yes, family, the highest rates of homelessness, unemployment, and underemployment is our plight in this country. And that's why I keep the pedal to the metal. I am full court press. My foot is on the gas. I'm not letting up. Because as we continue to get closer, we've got these agents of chaos coming in here, being disruptors, because they don't want to see us get up off this bottom, because that means the immigrants have got to trade places. And that's what they're fighting. Angela, reparations, Angel, thank you for spreading your wings of knowledge with the flock. I'm on code because of you. Praise God, Dominique. Thank you for being here, sister. Bless you, bless you. I see you, Sandra. Okay. No more studies and legislation. Cut our checks so we can pull the rope from around our own neck for self-respect and the end of Black financial neglect. Sis, I feel you, but we do need to assess the value. You can't just cut a check if you don't know the number. So I know we're out of time, and that's why we fought against Reginald Jones Sawyer to veto his nefarious bill to extend the proposal process through 24. Not one of the task members required that. July 23 is when those proposals are coming, but we don't even know how long it will be from that point to even seek remedy. So you need to do a study, because you've got to assess the damages. You've got to know what historically happened to us in your particular neck of the woods, and you've got to put a price on it. Otherwise, cut the check for what? $10 or $10 million. You can't just blindly cut checks. All the other groups went through it, my love. Mr. Johnson, sit your big-headed ace down and STFU. I'm with you on that, Dominique. Good Lord. Santra says, Dr. Umar explains that he is a relative. His great-great-great-great-grandfather is Frederick Douglass' cousin. Then he said that the cousins could be brothers because the white slaver raped both sisters. Well, according to Frederick Douglass' lineage, they say he's not one of theirs. He's lying and grifting as per usual. People are mentioning, hold on, she goes on to say, people are mentioning the cash payments but never speak of protections. Reconstruction, Freedmen Bureau, and annual budget to fund our social programs. Sis, we've already got protections on the books, but it's not being enforced. So yes, we also will be pushing for enforced protections too. We're not done with the proposal process. I think they just put a dollar amount, $223,000 just for housing discrimination. There's 5 areas that we've been impacted. Listen to the broadcast from yesterday. You know what? Umar's looking for white donations. Probably so. Probably so, family. All I know is that they're getting in the way, and we've got to become louder than they are. I believe he's talking about black spending power. We have none. Q-Lane, we don't have any spending power. I just mentioned that whites and immigrants share in hundreds of trillions of household dollars as compared to freedmen, which share in less than $700 billion since COVID. We're being evicted and foreclosed on. We have no spending power. We don't have businesses in our communities. They don't lend to us. Barack Obama lent what? 1% of SBA funding went to blacks? No, we don't have it like people lie. Just because we look good don't mean we're wealthy. Just because we get a paycheck, some of us do still, doesn't mean we're wealthy. Doesn't mean we're rich. Doesn't mean that our salaries are commensurate with that of immigrants and whites. Because it's not. Everything about us is on the bottom. But we coming up off this bottom. I am confused. Lineage-based reparations can be changed. No, lineage-based reparations can't be changed, Satra. What I'm talking about is how you're going to see a lot of $5 Crayola freedmen coming out claiming one drop of blood and that their line is directly in line with American freedmen, descendants of U.S. chattel slavery. But like I mentioned on yesterday's broadcast while reading the article, we can't distinguish between which freedmen were raped by the white slave masters and their buddies, or which one of us clearly are impacted. But I'm here to tell you, we're going to play that race card too. You don't just get to, now that you see reparations for black folks, show up and say, I descend from slavery. You don't get to just do that. There are going to be other measures in place. And I'm going to be speaking on this during public comments on Wednesday. So I hope you join me over here Wednesday, 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I was trying to find the email to give you guys. If you're out here in California, you've got a gas reparations, not a reparations, a gas rebate, $350 per person and dependent. I don't see it. Oh, Lord, did I close it out by mistake? I think I did. Let me see. Hold on. Contact state for gas rebate, California. Okay, this is your lifeline. You want to email them. Okay, this is the contact form. Let me copy and paste it in the thread. If you're in California, you can get big money. Well, not big money, but I mean like $350 per person and per dependent. If you filed your taxes in 2020, that's a gas rebate check for you that's coming in the mail. They've been sending them out since October. So if you didn't get yours, make sure you email them at that post, that link I just shared, and I'm sharing the website as well. Okay? I'm a 45-year-old FBA, says Dominique. I'm a 45-year-old FBA male, just for the record. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. My brother, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. American freedmen descend from slaves and identify as black for 10, 12, 15 years, right? Well, to me, that's hard to do. I think it's easier, and I'm going to propose that we go by what you identified with on your census. If you identified as white, you benefited from whiteness, so that will rule them out. They can't now come and claim the one drop rule. And so I'm going to recommend that we go by the last couple of censuses. You know, the last one and the one prior should be sufficient. What are that? That's 40 years of benefiting from whiteness. If that's how you identified, you shouldn't be entitled. Thank you, family, so much for joining me. I will try to be back tomorrow. No guarantees. I'm gearing up to go away to my, I agree, last couple of censuses, says Q Lane. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, that's what I'm going to push for at the top of the hour on Wednesday. If I don't see you tomorrow, I'll definitely see you Wednesday morning for more as the world of Freedmen turns. Seriously, I thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on your notifications. I am being shadow banned. And make sure you're still subscribed and that your notifications bell is on, because ScrewTube does a whole lot to censor us in this argument and elevate other voices like the bullshiggity Umar Johnson was espousing. It is utterly crazy and ridiculous to think that we now have got to be spiritually whole before we're entitled to a debt that has been owed for 500 years. Anywho, family, that's my time. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, as well as our allies, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. Yes, you are the voice of God, the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until we meet again, I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening. If no one's told you today, know that I love you, Black. And I love you, free but strong. And until next time, family, I'm believing for each and every one of us a ton of peace, love, and reparation, family. Thank you so much.